The movie opens as a lone rider crosses a wide valley toward a secluded, heavily guarded barn. He dismounts and enters with calm purpose. Inside, he meets General Corbin Dandridge, a former Confederate officer who has avoided justice since the Civil War and carries a bitter, defiant pride. He calmly informs Dandridge that he represents the law. To prove it, he shows his badge, introduces himself as William Breecher, a Pinkerton detective, and serves a warrant charging Dandridge with war crimes, including the massacre of civilians. The U.S. Department of Justice has officially sentenced him to hang. Breecher gives a grim ultimatum: surrender peacefully or face lethal force. Corbin only smirks. Surrounded by his armed men, he mocks the warrant and tries to draw his gun. With swift, ruthless efficiency, Breecher guns down the general and his men, leaving the barn silent and settled. The story then moves to Senator Benjamin Burke's office. Burke receives a telegram confirming the warrant has been carried out. Speaking with his assistant, Henry, he explains the real scope of Breecher's work. Breecher acts as the chosen executioner for a covert government program tasked with eliminating high-ranking Confederate war criminals hiding on the frontier. Burke considers the mission a harsh but necessary cleansing to help the nation move beyond the Civil War. He sees Breecher as a precise instrument, someone willing to shoulder the moral weight of these killings so the country does not have to. After the violence at the barn, Breecher pauses at a quiet grove to rest. He is soon approached by Harlan, a veteran bounty hunter who admits he has spent nearly a year tracking Dandridge, only to arrive too late. Though frustrated, Harlan acknowledges Breecher's skill. The two share a bottle of whiskey and talk about their trade. Harlan reflects on the stain death leaves on men like them, a mark that never fades. He offers Breecher a rare respect, saying their paths will likely cross again as long as they follow blood, possibly from opposite sides of a gun. They part with a firm handshake. Breecher rides on until he reaches a struggling ranch in a dusty valley. He arrives just as Sarah Cooke stands on her porch with a rifle, facing down mounted thugs trying to force her off her land as part of a wider takeover. Breecher's presence drives them off, though they leave with a threat to return. Sarah then turns her gun on Breecher, guarding her dying father and their home. Breecher tells her he is an old acquaintance of her father, Reginald Cooke. Sarah eventually lowers her rifle and brings Breecher inside the small house to see her father. Reginald lies bedridden, weakened by severe pneumonia and clearly close to death. Alone with him, Breecher reveals the truth. He carries a warrant for Reginald's execution for crimes committed long ago. Unlike Dandridge, Reginald does not resist. He accepts his guilt, confessing to the violence of his past and the lingering stain it left on him. Moved by his condition and Sarah's desperation, Breecher makes an unusual choice. He stays at the ranch to bear witness to Reginald's natural death instead of hauling a dying man to execution. As Breecher spends time with Sarah, he learns that the riders who threatened her work for a ruthless land grabber named Fred Quaid, who is determined to take the property. Over a quiet dinner, an unspoken connection forms between them. Sarah talks about the hardships of the land and the loss of her mother, who died soon after they settled there. When pressed, Breecher admits who he truly is and why he has come. Sarah accepts the truth without protest. Over the next few days, Breecher settles into life on the homestead, helping Sarah with daily work like fixing old fences. The routine offers a glimpse of the quiet life he longs for. One day, Reginald asks Breecher to end his life with poison, without Sarah knowing. Breecher refuses, saying it would be murder. Reginald argues that death by hanging is no different, but Breecher insists that Reginald must face his death naturally. When he steps outside, Breecher notices someone watching them from a distance. After asking Sarah about the nearest town and the location of Quaid's estate, Breecher decides to act. Knowing Reginald is too weak to protect his daughter or the land, he rides out to confront Quaid himself. At the estate, Breecher tries to buy peace by offering money, but Quaid, wealthy and arrogant, refuses. Instead, he proposes a fight against his strongest man, promising to leave the ranch alone if Breecher wins. Breecher accepts. At first, the giant overwhelms him, but Breecher endures. Using an iron bucket and precise strikes, he turns the fight around and drops his opponent. With the deal settled, he returns to the ranch. When Sarah sees his bruised face, Breecher says he made a small arrangement with Quaid to keep them safe. Realizing he fought for her and her home, Sarah cleans his wounds with hot water. The unspoken tension between them turns into real romance, and for a short time, Breecher finds peace. Later, while Sarah cares for her father, he confesses his past crimes to her, and Sarah forgives him. The fragile calm at the ranch collapses when Quaid returns with his men to resume their threats. Breecher ambushes one of them and takes him out, triggering a gunfight. Breecher and Sarah kill several attackers, while Reginald tries to help but is shot by Quaid. Breecher and Sarah then unload their guns on Quaid, killing him and ending the threat. After Reginald's death, Breecher builds a wooden coffin and helps Sarah bury her father on the land he defended. The funeral becomes a turning point for Breecher. He understands he cannot remain in peace until his mission is complete. They share a painful farewell, and Breecher rides away, leaving part of himself behind. Breecher arrives in the town of Knife's Edge, New Mexico. The final name on his list is Huxley Wainwright. He checks into a hotel and saloon run by Alice Hollenbeck, a kind woman stuck in harsh circumstances. Breecher keeps a low profile until a corrupt deputy named Jasper harasses Alice and a prostitute named Honey. Breecher steps in, and when Jasper reaches for his gun, Breecher shoots first, dropping him with professional speed and leaving him wounded. The disturbance draws out the sheriff, who sees that his deputy drew first and offers an apology. When the sheriff asks Breecher's reason for being in town, Breecher says he is only passing through and looking for a bed. The sheriff then turns to Honey, who admits she stole $12. Without hesitation, the sheriff shoots her dead, asserting his absolute control over the town and leaving everyone present frozen in terror. In his room, Alice visits Breecher and warns him about the sheriff's cruelty. She begs him to leave town, saying she cannot endure more bloodshed. Breecher finally tells her the truth. He is a detective sent to hang Huxley Wainwright, the sheriff himself. The next morning, Breecher is ambushed by deputies and taken prisoner. He is dragged into a room where Sheriff Huxley begins a cold, methodical effort to break him. Huxley knows Breecher is not a bounty hunter, judging him too precise and controlled. He mocks Breecher's mission and the government behind it. Despite the pain, Breecher stays silent, focused on the last name on his list and the promise of justice. Deciding that a quick death is not enough, Huxley orders his men to take Breecher into the desert and bury him alive. The deputies dig a deep grave. When one of them reaches into Breecher's pocket to steal his money, Breecher suddenly surges awake. He grabs the man's gun, kills both deputies, and sends their bodies tumbling into the grave meant for him. Bleeding and barely standing, Breecher crawls back toward town and takes shelter in the church, where Alice is praying. He asks her to bring his weapons and gear and to send a telegram to Senator Benjamin Burke. Burke learns of Breecher's capture and the corruption ruling Knife's Edge. With cold pragmatism, he sends a brief order. Breecher is authorized to proceed by any means necessary. The message gives him full freedom to act as judge, jury, and executioner. After regaining his strength, Breecher steps out of the church and marches into the saloon, opening fire on the deputies inside. The violence spills into the streets as a full shootout erupts. When a desperate deputy grabs a young girl as a shield, Breecher ends it with a single, flawless shot. By the time Sheriff Wainwright comes out of his office, every one of his men lies dead. The final confrontation unfolds in the middle of town. With his power collapsing, Sheriff Wainwright steps into the dusty street to face Breecher. He boasts that he did not rise to power by being slow and challenges Breecher to an old dime novel showdown. Breecher calmly replies that neither did he. They trade sharp words as Wainwright mocks the idea that a badge makes Breecher any different from the men he kills. Breecher answers with grim certainty, saying he acts not from hatred, but as an instrument of a nation trying to mend itself. The duel ends in a sudden burst of gunfire. Both men shoot, but Breecher is faster. Wainwright drops into the dust, though his final shot hits Breecher in the stomach. Ignoring the wound, Breecher walks to the fallen sheriff, tears the badge from his chest, and hands it to Alice, telling her the town is hers now. He mounts his horse and rides into the desert, blood soaking his side. Exhausted, he finally stops and collapses. Harlan appears as Breecher slips into unconsciousness. After tending his wounds, Breecher tells him he is done with this life. He gives Harlan the paperwork for Huxley's bounty so he can claim the reward. Harlan thanks him and rides away. With his remaining strength, Breecher makes it back to the farm, but falls from his saddle. Sarah rushes to him, relieved and grateful that he has finally come home. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.